I am Reed, I am 27, just an average dude. I've made tons of money mistakes in my 20s, and now I want to share everything I've learned to help you take control of your finances and your life. So about 12 months ago, I sat down on a random Sunday night, looked at my bank account, and honestly felt sick to my stomach. I was 26 years old, working a decent job, making okay money, but somehow I had almost nothing to show for it. I had a little bit of credit card debt, a checking account that was basically living paycheck to paycheck, and no savings at all. Zero. I remember just staring at my phone, scrolling through my transactions, thinking, where the hell did it all go? I bought lunch out almost every single day. I had 3 different streaming subscriptions I barely used. I was paying for a gym membership I had not stepped foot in for 4 months. I ordered stuff on Amazon at 2 in the morning that I did not need and honestly did not even want when it showed up. It was just this fog, this automatic way of living where money came in and money went out, and I was not really in control of any of it. And the worst part was I felt trapped. I wanted to travel, I wanted to move to a better apartment, I wanted to feel like I was actually moving forward in life, but I could not because I was just stuck spinning my wheels. So I made a decision. I decided I was going to track every single dollar I spent for 1 whole year. Not budget perfectly, not become some finance guru overnight, just track it. See what happened. And now 12 months later, I want to tell you exactly what changed with my income, my mindset, and my whole damn life. Let's start with income because that is probably the thing most people worry about first. When I started this journey, I was making about $48,000 a year before taxes. Not bad, not great, just kind of middle of the road for a guy in his mid-20s living in a mid-sized city. I had not gotten a raise in about a year, and honestly, I was too scared to ask for one. I thought if I just kept my head down and worked hard, someone would notice and give me more money. Spoiler alert, that is not how it works. So about 3 months into tracking my money, I realized something kind of brutal. Even if I cut all my expenses to the bone, there was a ceiling on how much I could save. I could coupon clip and eat rice and beans all day, but if my income was capped at $48,000, my savings was going to grow painfully slow. And that realization was actually a gift because it made me stop obsessing over cutting every single dollar and start thinking about how to earn more. I asked for a raise. I prepped for weeks. I made a list of everything I had accomplished in the past year. I practiced what I was going to say in the mirror like a weirdo, and I got it. They gave me a 6% raise, which brought me to about $51,000. Not life-changing, but it was something, and more importantly, it broke this mental block I had about asking for what I was worth. So I kept going. I picked up a side gig helping a small business with their social media posts. Nothing fancy, just a few hours a week for an extra $300 a month. I sold a bunch of old clothes and electronics on Facebook Marketplace, stuff that had been sitting in my closet for years collecting dust. I made about $800 from that. By the end of the year, my total income was about $57,000. That is almost $9,000 more than the year before. And here's the thing, I did not work myself to death. I did not grind until midnight every night. I just started paying attention to where money could come from instead of only where it was going. Now let's talk about the actual tracking part because this is where things got real. I used a simple spreadsheet, nothing fancy, just 3 columns: date, what I spent it on, and how much. Every single night before I went to bed, I opened that spreadsheet and typed in whatever I had spent that day. Coffee $3.50, lunch $12, gas $40. You get the idea. The first month was honestly humiliating. I realized I had spent over $300 on eating out by myself. Not with friends, not on dates, just me buying lunch and coffee and snacks throughout the day because I was too lazy to meal prep or too tired to make breakfast at home. $300, that was like a car payment just on food I ate alone at my desk. And the thing about tracking is it forces you to look at your own behavior without judgment. You are not telling yourself you are bad for spending money. You are just collecting data, and data does not lie. By month 3, I had naturally started spending less without even trying. Not because I was forcing myself, but because I could see the numbers. I would reach for my wallet to buy another coffee, and a little voice in my head would say, you already spent $80 on coffee this month. Do you really need this one? And half the time I would just put my wallet away. By month 6, my spending had dropped by about 25%. I was still having fun. I was still going out with friends. I just stopped wasting money on things that did not actually make me happy. And that is the thing nobody tells you. Tracking your money does not make you miserable. It actually shows you where you are bleeding cash on stuff you do not even care about, so you can redirect that money to stuff you actually love. My savings account was the place where I saw the biggest change and honestly the biggest emotional shift. At the start of the year, I had exactly $0 in savings, not exaggerating, 0. My emergency fund was my credit card, which is not an emergency fund, that is a trap. So I set a small goal, save $1,000 as fast as I could. That took me about 3 months. I sold some stuff I cut way back on eating out, and I put every extra dollar into that savings account, and when I hit that first 1,000, I felt something I had not felt in a long time. I felt safe. Like if my car broke down or I lost my job, I would not instantly be screwed. That feeling is addictive. So I kept going. I set up an automatic transfer of $200 every payday into a high-yield savings account. I did not have to think about it. It just happened automatically. By month 6, I had $2,400 in savings. By month 9, I had almost $4,000. By the end of the year, I had $5,300 in my emergency fund plus about $2,000 in a separate account I started for a trip I wanted to take. $7,300 total. That is not life-changing money to some people, but to me, it was everything. I had never in my life had that much cash just sitting there waiting for me. And here's the wild part. I did not feel deprived. I did not feel like I was missing out. I felt free. But the money stuff is only half the story, honestly. The bigger changes happened in my mindset and my life, and that is what I really want to talk about, because that is what actually lasts. The first big mindset shift was around scarcity. Before I started tracking, I was always in this scarcity mindset. I felt like there was never enough money, never enough time, never enough of anything. I would get anxious about bills and then cope by spending money on dumb stuff to feel better. It was this toxic cycle. But when I started seeing my savings grow, something flipped. I started feeling abundant. Not rich, but like I had enough. And when you feel like you have enough, you stop making desperate decisions. You stop panic buying. You stop saying yes to plans you cannot afford because you are scared of missing out. You start making choices from a place of calm instead of fear. The second big shift was around time. When I started tracking my money, I also started paying more attention to how I spent my time. I realized I was wasting hours scrolling on my phone or watching shows I did not even like just because I was tired and did not have the energy to do anything else. So I started making small changes. I started meal prepping on Sundays, which saved me money on food and also saved me the mental energy of deciding what to eat every day. I started waking up 30 minutes earlier to have a quiet morning instead of rushing out the door. I started saying no to plans I did not actually want to go to, and all of that freed up energy and focus that I used to actually move forward in my life. My relationships changed too. When I stopped spending money impulsively, I started being more intentional about who I spent time with. I stopped trying to keep up with friends who had different financial situations than me. I started being honest about my budget. Hey, I cannot afford to go to that restaurant this week, but I would love to grab a beer somewhere cheaper. And you know what? Most of my friends did not care. The ones who did care were not really my friends anyway. I started having deeper conversations about money with people close to me, which sounds weird, but it actually brought us closer. We started sharing tips and goals and struggles. I realized I was not alone in feeling confused and behind. Most people in their 20s have no idea what they are doing with money. They just pretend they do. My stress levels dropped dramatically. Look, I am not going to tell you that money is the only source of stress in life because that would be a lie. But not having your finances under control is like a low-grade fever that is always there, making everything else worse. When I had no savings, every small problem felt like a crisis. A flat tire was a disaster. A surprise bill was a catastrophe. But once I had that emergency fund, a flat tire was just a flat tire. Annoying but manageable. I could handle it without panic. That mental space alone was worth more than any amount of money I saved. I also started sleeping better. I know that sounds cheesy, but it is true. I used to lie in bed at night doing mental math about my bills and my credit card balance and how many days until my next paycheck. Now I go to bed and my brain is quiet about money. Not silent, I am still human but quiet. And that makes a huge difference in how I show up the next day at work, in my relationships. And just in general, there were hard moments too. I am not going to pretend it was all smooth sailing. Around month 4, I had a month where I spent way over my budget. I went to a concert, bought merch, ate out too much, and just kind of fell off the wagon. I felt like a failure. I almost quit tracking because I thought, what is the point? I messed up anyway. But then I realized that is exactly the kind of thinking that kept me broke for years. Perfectionism. The idea that if I cannot do it perfectly, I should not do it at all. So I just got back on track the next day. I did not try to make up for it by starving myself the rest of the month. I just acknowledged it, made a note in my spreadsheet, and kept going. And that is probably the most important lesson I learned all year. Consistency beats perfection every single time. You do not need to be perfect. You just need to not quit. Another hard moment was around month 7 when I had a medical bill show up that I was not expecting, $400. My old self would have put that on a credit card and buried it, but this time I had the money. I paid it and moved on. It hurt a little to see my savings drop, but it did not break me. And that moment proved to me that the system was working. That is exactly what an emergency fund is for. Not because emergencies are fun, but because they happen and you need to be ready. So let's talk about where I am now at the end of this year. I am 27 years old. I make about $57,000 a year between my job and my side gig. I have $7,300 in savings. I have 0 credit card debt. I have a simple budget that I actually follow, not because I have to, but because I want to. I know exactly where my money goes every month, and more importantly, I have a plan. I know what I am working toward. I want to save 6 months of expenses as a full emergency fund, which for me is about $12,000. I want to start investing more seriously this year. I want to take that trip I have been saving for. I have actual goals, not just vague wishes. And honestly, the biggest change is that I just feel better. I feel like I am in the driver's seat of my own life instead of being a passenger. If you are watching this and you feel stuck, I get it. I was there 12 months ago, and I am not here to tell you that tracking your money will solve all your problems, because it will not. Life is still messy. You will still have bad days, but I will tell you this. Getting control of your finances gives you a foundation. It gives you a little bit of breathing room. And from that breathing room, you can actually start building the life you want. You do not need to be rich to start. You do not need to know everything. You just need to start paying attention. Start today. Open a notes app, open a spreadsheet, grab a piece of paper, and write down what you spent yesterday. Then do it again tomorrow. That is all you have to do. The rest will take care of itself. I promise. I am Reed. I am 27, just an average dude who figured out that you do not need a finance degree to get your life together. You just need to care enough to try. Peace.